Recently, I created a ComfyUI 101 Ultimate AI art tutorial and realized something. A lot of people don't have that beefy GPU that can crush any model. In fact, my own GPU couldn't even handle Qwen 2.2, especially not the 14 billion parameter model. Not even close. My ultimate ComfyUI video is linked in the description if you want to check that out, but it gave me the idea for this one. What's the cheapest way to get started with ComfyUI with the power of the most expensive video cards out there for about $350? So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use RunPod to tap into GPUs like the 5090 or even an A100, which is a non-consumer $10,000 video card, without spending thousands up front. We'll break down all the costs, compare buying an RTX 3090 or a 5090, and see how long it would take to break even. I'll also cover some extra perks that RunPod will give you, like scalability, portability, and future-proofing. And finally, I'll walk you through how easy it is to get started and the process of actually setting up a server. So before you buy that shiny new NVIDIA GPU, whether it's an RTX 3090, 4090, or even a flagship 5090 that you've been thinking about, you should definitely watch this video first before making that decision. And if you have no clue what those numbers mean, like 3090, 40, 50, whatever, these are NVIDIA's high-end graphics cards that have up to 24 to 32 gigabytes of VRAM, which is a much-needed requirement for AI art. It's designed for not just gaming, but also running AI models, 3D rendering, and heavy creative workloads. They're some of the most powerful consumer GPUs on the market, and some of them are also the most expensive on the market, often costing around $1,500 to $3,000 or more. In this video, I'll show you how RunPod can give you access to that same level of power without dropping thousands up front, and why, for most people, renting is actually a smarter move than owning. Now, you might have noticed this video is a little bit long, and that's because it's two videos in one. So it's the math and justification of why RunPod is a lot cheaper than buying an RTX 5090 outright. And the second part is the installation and troubleshooting, which there was a lot of problems that I ran into that I want to show you. So if you run into it, you can fix it. And at the very end, we actually install Qwen Animate, which is amazing. It's the newest thing from Qwen this week, and it's just crazy. And at the end of the video, I'll have some sample pictures of things that I created with the tools I uploaded into RunPod. Tools like Qwen and Qwen Edit and Qwen 2.2 Animate. Feel free to use the chapters to jump around the video. And I'll be honest, when I first looked at RunPod, I was skeptical. The idea of paying per hour made me cringe psychologically because I hated the thought of just having no cap and watching the costs add up daily. That's why I always chose tools like Midjourney over things like Dolly or other pay-as-you-go apps. Even though there were some months, multiple months, I paid for Midjourney and I didn't create a single picture or video, but I preferred that comfort of the flat fee knowing that I wouldn't go over that price. But once I started crunching the numbers with RunPod, I realized what a dummy I was, because renting actually makes a lot more sense than I thought. I was actually considering buying an RTX 5090, and on RunPod, you could rent a 5090 for about 89 cents an hour. And if you ran that for about 1 hour every day, that's about $325 a year. But now let's compare that with buying one outright. On Amazon right now, 5090s go for $2,500 to $3,000. Divide that by 325 a year, and it would take 8 to 9 years of daily 1 hour usage to break even with that cost of a 5090. But here's the truth. Most people don't run ComfyUI for 1 hour a day. In reality, it's closer to like 10 hours a month total, which is more like maybe 30 minutes or less a day. And that's only 120 hours a year, or about $107 a year on RunPod to run a 5090. At that pace, it would take 23 to 28 years to equal the cost of buying a 5090. And trust me, your 5090 will be obsolete in 3 to 5 years. So unless you're hammering it daily with heavy projects, renting is dramatically cheaper. But I thought about internet speed might affect it, but we're not playing an FPS shooter here that needs high-speed internet for lag-free gaming with 1 millisecond latency. You're really just initiating prompting, and then the AI does all the heavy lifting on the server side with its beefy GPUs, running up their power bill, not yours, and spitting out the picture or video that you asked for. And then you could just download that. So that's another one of my myths busted. So I ran out of excuses to try it, and so I learned how to do it. Then next is one of the best part of RunPod is its portability and flexibility. You can spin up a 5090 from anywhere in the world, even on your old weak laptop. Your internet only needs to be fast enough once for the initial download. Basically, you're carrying a supercomputer in your backpack anywhere you go if you got Wi-Fi. So the bottom line is, if you're only doing 10 hours a month of ComfyUI, buying a 5090 does not make sense. it would take decades to even break even. So RunPod gives you all the power you need at a fraction of the cost wherever you are. Even at 20 hours a month, you're still looking at 12 to 14 years. The only time buying actually makes sense is if you're pushing closer to 30 hours a month, or basically an hour every day. And most people just don't really use it that much. And here's the one last thing that nobody thinks about. GPUs don't last forever. A new generation comes out every 2 to 3 years, and your shiny 3000 glorious GPU becomes last gen before you even hit break even. Add in the wear and tear, power costs, and the chance your card breaks, it's a gamble. With RunPod, you're future-proof. You can scale up and down depending on your project, from a 3090, 5090, or even an A100, which you can't even buy as a consumer, unless you just got 30K sitting around so you can use AI art on a A100 server. And the cool thing is that you're not tied to one machine. You could run ComfyUI on a 20-year-old laptop, an iPad, or anything with an internet connection. Now, one of the big plus side of owning a 5090 is gaming, but let's be honest, you can pay significantly less for 5070 or 5080 and still run everything on ultra settings. There's maybe 1 or 2 games that push the boundaries and still need that much horsepower. It's usually like Skyrim with 3000 mods, but for 99% of people, the 5090 is complete overkill. So unless you're living in ComfyUI 24/7 or training models all day long, RunPod gives you more power, more flexibility, and way more value than buying a flagship GPU ever could. I challenge you to figure out how many hours you've used ComfyUI last month, or track the amount of hours you used this month, and then take the price per hour of RunPod and see how much you would spend per year. I guarantee you it's probably going to add up to over a decade of use of RunPod to break even with an RTX 5090. But there's one slight catch, and that's why you watched all the way to this point of the video, right? By the way, I would love it if you liked the video. It really helps a small creator like me out a lot, and it's completely free. And if you enjoy this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, about that catch, it's storage. By default, RunPod gives you ephemeral storage. That's a fancy word for saying temporary. It's free for you to use, but it will erase when you turn off the cloud server. And as soon as you shut down your pod, everything is gone. Your models, your outputs, even your custom nodes that you downloaded during that session. So if you downloaded a 20 gig model, you'll need to re-download it next time. And any images you forgot to save or extract will be gone. But there is another option, which is persistent storage, and it's also called network volume for RunPod. This keeps your files safe between sessions, but it costs about 7 cents per gigabyte a month. It's not free, but it's still dirt cheap compared to wasting hours re-downloading models over and over. Now, for a quick summary, here is a chart, and these are approximations, and flux context could sometimes be somewhere from 7 to 13 or 6 to 11. So you can see in the chart here, the average is about 10, and that's how I came up with that number. But if you look at things like the FP8 or FP16 model for WAN 2.2, you can see that there's a huge difference here between WAN 2.2 light and WAN 2.2 heavy. It's like double the size, from 37 gigs to 70. But I think this chart gives a good visual on how much you would pay per month for storage if you choose to use this amount of storage for these models. But I'd like to point out again that you could rent out an A100, which is a $10,000 GPU that could run on this server. All right, time for some serious talk. If you made it this far in the video, listen closely because this part is critical. When you first sign up for RunPod, it will ask you to save your card details. I wasn't given any other option when I signed up. Here's the important part. Go into your billing settings and make sure that configure autopay is turned off and the save autopay settings is grayed out. This way, RunPod will only pull from your existing credits balance, and once you're out of credits, your pod will shut down automatically. If autopay is on and you don't close the pod properly, RunPod will keep charging your card every time you run out of credits, basically draining your credit card instead of just stopping at your RunPod balance. By default, autopay should be off, but don't take that for granted. Double check your settings and make sure you're protected. Now let's flip the perspective for a second. Some people might actually want to turn on the auto pay, especially if you're training models overnight or running long jobs that can't afford to be interrupted. If that's you, here's the key part. You need to know how to properly shut down RunPod when you're not using it. Don't just close your browser or shut down your PC and assume it stopped, because even if your computer is off, RunPod is still instructed to run in the cloud. You have to go back into your RunPod dashboard, check your active pods, and make sure you power them down manually. That's the only way to guarantee it's not quietly running in the background and racking up charges. So if you toggle on the autopay for your convenience, remember, always double check your pods and confirm they're off when you're finished. And here's how to check. In the dashboard, if you go to pods, you'll see here your pod. And if it's green and says it's running, or if it's purple, then you're paying. You need to click stop to stop the pod, and then it should turn gray, and then you won't be billed. And that's when the billing stops, except for storage. But storage is a fixed monthly price, unlike GPU usage, which is per minute. Now, something else that you have to do is set the idle timer. Every time you launch a pod, scroll to the advanced settings and add a timeout after 10 or 15 minutes. So when the GPU goes idle, RunPod shuts it down automatically, and then you won't get charged further. I'll go over that later in the video. Now that I've lost half my audience, let's get started. Head over to RunPod using the affiliate link in my description, and it costs you nothing, but it helps me out, gives me some credits. Once you get there, click on Get Started, and as soon as you click that, you'll have this notice here. You've unlocked a referral bonus, which is kind of weird because you're kind of referring yourself. And you could sign up using your Google account to claim a reward, which is anywhere from $5 to $500 if you're not living in UK. If you are in UK, it's $5. And I love signups with Google accounts because you don't have to fill out any forms. You just click sign up with your Google account and you're in. But check your email for the reward. And if you sign up, you'll get $5 to $500 as a bonus. It's kind of weird that you get an affiliate bonus for yourself, but this is what it is. And $5 if you're in Europe. There's no random bonus here. When you log in, you're going to see your home dashboard here, and you're going to see a couple things on the left here. These are all the important things like your storage, if you get network storage. And there's a billing where you could turn on auto pay if you want to keep your credit card running and these servers running 24/7. But if you're like me and you want to cap, you could turn that off and just work with this amount up here, which at the top left, you can see 807. That's how much I have left. And then pods is going to be important, as well as pod templates. So pods are going to show you all the GPUs that are available to use and the ones that are currently running. So I currently have one running, so it's only going to show that right now. But if you click on this, it'll show you all the available GPUs for you. And if you go to pod templates, you could spin up multiple different types of servers. And there's some for large language models. There's a lot for ComfyUI. I personally use this one right here, which was the first one, ComfyUI up here. And there's some with like Flux one click and also this Qwen one click, but just keep in mind that they don't have the models sometimes. Some of them do, some of them don't. Just because it says Qwen doesn't mean the Qwen model is already there, but the workflows should be there. Then there's storage. If you want to get a storage, you can create a new volume over here, and then you could choose how much you want per month, and the minimum's 10 and it's 7 cents per gig. I personally got 80, so 80s actually cost $5.60 per month, and I chose a server in California, gave the volume a name, and then just created the network volume. And once you have that, you can attach it to whatever GPU you choose to run. So when you go to pods here and you choose deploy, it's going to give you all the different GPU options that you can deploy. Then at the top here, you have secure cloud or community. Community is cheaper, but it's going to be ephemeral storage, which means once you turn it off, it's all gone. Which for some models, that's okay to download like 10 to 20 gigs. But if you're like me and you're downloading like 50 to 60 gigs, you don't want to have to mess with that every time. So that's why I have this test 80 gigabytes, and that's actually my network drive that I created and I attached here. So it's as easy as clicking this drop down here to select your drive. And if you want to add one, you could also add a network volume here if you're willing to pay monthly for it. And the charge is prorated. So if you have 80 and then you drop it to 10, they'll charge you appropriately for the days you use 80 gigabytes and the days you use 10 gigabytes. Then as you can see, the cards here, 5090, you got your 4090. Then you got these RTX 6000s, 5000s, and 4000s, which I like to use, but they got pretty low CUDA cores, which is the only issue. But they have a lot of VRAM. So like this 6000 here has 48 gigabytes of VRAM. So for certain tasks where VRAM's an issue, it's a good option, but the CUDA cores are like about the same as, 4080 or something. Now, one thing to take note is you see how it says high here and low. That's the availability status. So if you hover over it here, it says low availability. That's important because if you click on like a 5090 here and you want to do a spot server, which is a lot cheaper, but you have the ability to get interrupted, if it's on low availability, you're most likely going to get kicked off, because once someone goes on demand, they're going to kick you off the spot. These are just the servers that nobody's using. As you can see, there's 8 GPUs here that are available, so a spot shouldn't be too crazy, especially if you have saved storage, and that's not an issue. But if you have the ephemeral storage and you're planning to just not save anything to a network drive, I wouldn't choose Spot. I would choose On Demand, and don't click on these by accident because it's asking you to pay for a whole year up front, which is pretty expensive. Then when you go to the bottom, you can deploy On Demand, which is what I selected. If you select Spot, you could deploy on Spot. But if you really want to go cheap, you can select the Community Cloud, and these are dirt cheap, and you don't have a drive that you can save things on. But if you're just doing something like a 10 gigabyte model, you can get away with like 10 cents to 20 cents an hour. So here's a 3090 Ti for 27 cents an hour. That's insane. Here's an RTX 3090 regular for 10 cents an hour. So if you click on that, there's even a Spot here that you can do for 11 cents. So that's dirt cheap. 11 cents an hour to use a 3090 versus buying a 3090 for $1,500 or $2,000. Think about that. But again, don't forget to change the template to a ComfyUI template or whatever you're trying to use with AI. And you could also create your own template if you know how to work with scripts and installing Ubuntu. Actually, you don't need to know how to do that. You can ask ChatGPT how to give you the code for the script for starting your own template. Okay, I think we understand it. So let's run one right now. So for practice sake, let's run one with a secure cloud on my network storage here. We got that test 80 gigabytes, and that just made a bunch of cards unavailable. So that's something to take note of. A lot of these work with ephemeral storage, but once you go network storage, they're not available. So I only have like a few now, which is the 5090, the 4090, and the 6000s here. Now, not all 6000s are the same. You have some of the older models with 48 gigs, and then you have the one with 96, which is insane. And remember, their CUDA cores are not the same as the 5090s, so it could end up being that the 5090 is a lot faster than something that has 3 times its VRAM, like an A100. A100 has 80 gigabytes of VRAM. Even though it's a data center GPU, it's not made for that particular task. So 4090 seems like the cheapest out of all of these here. On demand, or we'll do a Spot in this case. There's only 2 GPUs available if you see here. So I'm going to deploy the Spot at 20 cents, and I'm going to have 2 different servers running. So that's how you do that. And if it's purple like this, it's loading and it says waiting for connection data, or it's green like this, that means that you're paying. And you can see here on the right, the yellow part, that's my disk utilization, all the stuff that I downloaded, but that'll be there for next time. But I don't need this server, so I'm going to terminate it. So right here, click the terminate button, terminate pod, and make sure it's gone. And I have 1 green, so that means I'm being charged for this 1 server now. It's very important to turn these off, because if you don't, it's gonna just keep running, and this is either gonna go to 0, or if you chose the auto pay option, it's gonna keep going till your card runs out of money. So make sure, that's why I made that section with the big warning sign, is because this thing could go on forever. So just make sure you do that. Now, when you open up the server, it looks like this, and this is one that's running, and it takes a while to run. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes the first time. But now that I've had everything uploaded, it's almost immediate. It's like 5 to 10 seconds because everything's stored on a network drive. And that's the plus side of renting a network storage over a month. So I'm going to terminate this pod just to show you what it looks like when it first starts up. So I'm going to go into pod templates, type in ComfyUI, and I use this first one here. So since I've already loaded this, it's going to be pretty quick. And there's the file browser information. So take note of that. It's important. So actually, I'm going to click to copy that, and the username's admin. So go ahead and deploy the pod, and now make sure that your storage is attached here. I got the test 80 gigabytes attached. If you don't see it, you got to go to secure cloud, not community. Then choose your hardware. So I'm going to choose the 4090, which usually there's more available. So, but this is the cheapest right now at 59 cents an hour, and deploy on demand. Now it's waiting for connection data, and then you can check the logs to see when it's done, because even though everything looks good here, you have to make sure the logs are good. So let's look at the template readme while this is starting up. And so admin12 is the password for the file browser. Very good to remember. And when we look at connect, it says these are ready, but I doubt they're ready. I would wait till everything loads like ComfyUI. And even when that loads, you have to look at the logs here. Go to system or container actually, and check when it's done. All right, so it says all startup tasks have been completed. Great, so we should be able to connect now. Actually, it says it's not ready, so we gotta wait for that. But let's check out the file browser in the meantime. And if you remember, in the template readme, there was the username and password right down here. So the username is admin, and then the password is admin12. So you should be able to log in, and this will be much easier to manage your files rather than using the Jupyter, which is this one down here, Jupyter Lab, which I'm going to show you how to use that later because there's a terminal there. but this one is much easier to work with. So let me go back up here. So I'm going to click on home, and then you have two options, RunPod Slim and ComfyUI. You actually have to go into the RunPod Slim and then go into the ComfyUI folder inside there, and then go into models, and this is where everything's going to live. All the different custom and things you have to download have to go in here. You got your diffusion models, your checkpoints and everything. The cool thing is checkpoints could actually open here. If you go into your Jupyter Lab, the checkpoints folder actually doesn't open up in here. So if you go into, not output, models, checkpoints, it doesn't open. So you actually have to click on terminal here and access it through the terminal by doing cd checkpoints. And that's how you have to do it with that, which I'll show you later. If you look at the models folder, we have this one file that's in the wrong place. So you can do a couple things. You can move it. Since this is not the complete file, I'm going to delete it. But this button right here is the move, and I'm going to click on delete since I don't want it. But I do have a copy of it on my hard drive, a full copy, not the partial download. So I'm going to go in the checkpoints folder where it should be, open it up, and then click on the up button right here. So that's upload file. And then I'm going to select the SDXL down there. Then you'll see these arrows here circling, which means that it's currently uploading. For some reason, it's so much quicker doing it through here rather than Jupyter Lab. If you try to move things in Jupyter Lab, make sure you cut and paste it. You don't want to try and drag things in a folder or it takes forever to upload. It's a bunch of weird quirks, but it helps you if you don't have access to this file manager, which some people don't leave the password to the file manager or don't leave a link to it. You might have to create your own link. You could always take the pod and you can edit it by going to the ellipsis here and edit the pod. And then you can add a new port and you can make it your own, and you can add your own new port for the file manager. And they got these default ports for everything. So file manager or file browser is port 8080. Now we know how to work with file browser and move files around and upload things that we downloaded, like custom files. Very important when you're working with ComfyUI. Now let's click on ComfyUI. It should be all the way downloaded now. And just like that, ComfyUI is up and running on an RTX 4000, which I'm paying 28 cents an hour for. And it's a 20 gigabyte VRAM card. And you can get like a 5090 or a 4090 for under $1. So like 86 cents an hour or like 40 cents an hour. It's really up to you what task you're doing. If you're doing something like with WAN 2.2, I definitely recommend a 5090, like WAN Animate or WAN just base, WAN anything, WAN 2.2. Definitely 5090. If you're just doing something with Qwen, I would recommend something like an RTX 3090, 4090, or even an A5000, 4000. I'm using an A4000 right now. Should be fast enough. And you could always use an A100, which is a $10,000 GPU on a $20,000 server. It's a data center GPU, which is good for training and other things, but not particularly inferencing AI art. You don't need that. It's overkill and it might not be faster than your 5090. And so if you look at this chart here, you'll see here that the blue is the A100 and then the orange is the RTX 5090. You can see here that the 1.5 represents the minutes it takes to generate a 5-second clip, and then the A100 takes significantly longer, 30 seconds longer in this example. If you look at a 4070, it's like 18 minutes, which is why I'm here, because I got a 4070. But something you really have to consider is that the A100s, they're not meant for this particular use case, and they have a lot of VRAM. This one has 80 gigabytes of VRAM, which is more than 2 times of the 5090, but it only has about 7,000 CUDA cores, and the 5090 here has almost 25,000 CUDA cores, and the A100 only has about 7,000. So CUDA cores are definitely the most important thing when it comes to parallel processing and efficiency. So definitely get the RTX 5090 if you're doing something with WAN 2.2. When you first get into ComfyUI, you're going to see a blank workflow. But what I did is I went into templates, and then I clicked on image generation, and then I got the basic Stable Diffusion 1.5 workflow here. But it asked me to download this model at first. Now I want to show you how to do that, but it's a little bit more difficult to work with files here. It's not as simple as drag and drop. So let's go take a look at that. Now let's refresh this page again, and it's probably going to prompt me now to download the model because it's not there. Yep, and it did it. And so we're not going to download it like normal. It's not going to put it into the correct folder for us like it normally does on your desktop version. You're going to have to copy the URL right here. So you can see here, copy to the clipboard. Now go back to your pod real quick and then click on this port 888 Jupyter Lab, and that's what we need to use to download the models directly into the folders. So this is Jupyter Labs here, and you're going to see ComfyUI and RunPod Slim. Click on that, and then click on ComfyUI, and click on models. Actually, before we click on models, there's this output folder right under models, and this is where everything goes. So all your different generations, your pictures, your videos, they all end up here. And if you have ephemeral storage, you have to extract these and you have to select everything in here and then click on download. You could also right click and download it. But you have to take it out of here before you shut down or everything's going to be erased. So just keep that in mind. If you have storage like me, it'll stay there. All right, going back to the ComfyUI folder. Now models, and models is where everything is going to be. You have your checkpoints in here, your VAEs, your text encoders, and if you're confused what all that means, check out my Comfy 101 video in the video description. It'll teach you all you need to know. Now we need to get into the pesky checkpoints folder. So we're in the models folder right now. So I'm going to type in CD and then checkpoints. There's a space between CD and checkpoints, by the way, and enter. Now you can see I'm in the checkpoints folder. Now I'm going to type in wget. By the way, W is short for www or World Wide Web, and then get is just get it. So wget is get it from the web, basically. You don't need to remember all this. I'll put it in my description so you can just copy and paste or go back to my description if you forget. I also have checkpoints in all my videos, so you can just click to the part here if you need to watch it one more time. So wget, and now I'm going to paste that link that I copied. You can do that by right clicking in the console just like this and pasting, allow, or you can just press Control V when you're inside the console. All right, so now I'm going to click on the N here. I'm going to press the right directional key just to make sure I'm at the N, and then I'm going to delete where it says download true and the question mark. So it should just end with the safe tensors here because we're not actually doing it that way, but because that might just download into our downloads folder. So this right now is going to put it directly into the checkpoints folder. So I'm going to press enter, and there you go. And it's pretty quick. This is 2 gigs right here and it's 10% complete. All right, so it's 100% and we didn't get an error. That took about 39 seconds, but not all models will be that quick. And keep in mind, this is only 2 gigs large. So now we're going to go back to ComfyUI, and it's still asking because it doesn't know yet. So let's refresh the browser. You can just click the refresh up top or press F5. Cool, now it's not complaining. Now it's in there. So we have something in here, beautiful scenery. We'll just do the default and click run. And it took 1 second. Nice. So let's try some more prompts. All right, so I created a bunch more prompts, 1 second each. Is SD1.5, which is, it is what it is the older version of Stable Diffusion. But if you use a custom model, it'll actually be really nice. So let's try something more advanced now. Go to templates, now go to video, and let's check out Qwen 2.2 Animate, which is simply amazing. You can create entire animations out of that. So it doesn't just animate people, it'll animate characters. And there's some amazing videos out there of Qwen 2.2 Animate. Now they've always had the video to video down here that does something very similar, but it didn't work as good on characters. This one's just like, it's gonna kill the animators. It's crazy how good it is. You just have a video in the background, a sample video, and it just recreates it with the character. So click on it. And before you download any of this, let's close this and take a look at the notes so we know where it goes. And there's a note on the side that shows where everything goes. All the files, the VAE goes in the VAE, Clip Vision goes into the Clip Vision. The XXL file goes into the text encoders, then LoRa's going to the LoRa's naturally. But there's a relight LoRa, and then there's this light 2x, which is probably like an 8-step thing. I don't know, it doesn't say. And then you got your diffusion models, the Qwen 2.2 Animate, and there's a FP8 BF16. So let's grab all of this and go back into templates, videos, Qwen 2.2 Animate. And let's start at the top here with Clip Vision. So copy the URL, go into Jupyter Lab. By the way, it's over here, port 888, the Jupyter Lab. You click on this to open it if you're just tuning in now. So Jupyter Lab, now RunPod Slim, ComfyUI, then our models folder. And then we had a clip vision. Actually, it's not just a clip. So look for a Clip Vision folder right there. And that is the folder that you need. So I'm going to click on terminal now. And as you can see, we're directed inside the Clip Vision folder. Very important before you do this. Then type in wget, World Wide Web get space, and then paste the link that we had earlier. And there's no download at the end. So usually it says like download equals true at the end, but it doesn't say it here. So we're just going to press enter since it's not there. All right, so the clip downloaded fast. That's 1.2 gigs. It did it in 23 seconds. It's fast when you do it directly. If you upload it from your computer, it is super slow. So try to avoid that. Cool. Now the next file is our LoRa. That's going to go in the LoRa's folder. So click on models up here and we're going to go into the LoRa's folder. Cool. So now we need to do a wget for our LoRa's inside the LoRa folder. Whoops, we're not in the LoRa's folder. Type in cd LoRa's. Now we're in the LoRa's folder. By the way, if you need to go back to the models folder again, type in cd space period enter. You're in the models folder, and cd, then the name of the folders will make you go forward. Now that we're in LoRa's, we're going to type in wget and then paste our LoRa in there. Doesn't say download true question mark at the end, so we can just press enter. Now the next one is the LoRa's for WAN Animate. Copy the URL. Now we're already in the LoRa's folder, so wget space and then Control V to paste. Press enter. Oh no, it says it's not there. Let's try it again. Copy the link, wget, enter. Not found. Great. So I'm not sure what's wrong with this link. Let me see here. So I'm in Hugging Face. So now I'm in files and versions. And the file we're looking for is the relight. Okay, so I found another link for the relight LoRa, and hopefully this replaces the one we have. So I'm going to copy the link by right-clicking on the down arrow here for the relight LoRa. Hopefully this works. Go back in the LoRa's folder, wget, and then paste. And then I gotta erase the part at the end where it says download true question mark. So try that out. And so it's downloading that. Hopefully that works. It seems to be removed from the official repository. I don't know why. Also, if you do what I did and you go looking around for it, don't go too far away from Hugging Face or Civet AI, and get the ones that say save tensors at the end to avoid any pickling or deserialization hacks. Doing the serialization of Python objects, sometimes things are kind of packed in there that shouldn't be. So save tensors kind of helps eliminate that. If you're like me and you messed up and you put things in the wrong folder, I put everything in the LoRa's folder because I wasn't looking. You can actually right click and cut the file that you want to move. Go back into models, and the text encoders needs to go into text encoders, and then I'll paste it in here. What else did I mess up in the LoRa's here? I put the VAE in here, so let's move that into the VAE. And I also messed up the main model, so which is this one right here, the 14 billion parameter model, FP8. So I'm going to cut that. And these two are LoRa's, so those belong there. I'm going to go into models, and this goes into the diffusion models folder. Paste that right there. And let's check if that's correct. So go to templates, video, WAN Animate. And you can see it's not asking me for any models anymore. So they're all in the correct folders. That's one way to find out. Another way is to go over here and confirm that all these are in the right folders. You're going to see two over here for the models. That's because there's two different models that you can run. The one it told us to download was the FP8 because that's a lot less resource intensive. So we're going to go to templates now, back to video, and I just do this every time so I can get the pop-up here. And so I got to download these nodes that are missing here. So close this out, and then at the top right, there's the manager. Now you're gonna have to go to install custom nodes and just click the top left here. That should select everything that's missing and then select install. One thing I ran into is when I was installing custom missing nodes as well as updating ComfyUI, it just kind of stalled. But in the terminal, it said it was done, so it was done. So I just restarted from there. So if you're waiting more than 10 minutes, just restart ComfyUI. I would just shut down the server and turn it back on. What I mean by that is go to pods and then terminate it and then start it up again. Don't terminate it and then terminate it here, or you're going to have to start over again. So don't do this. Terminate pod. So you're just terminating the session. Sometimes it says stop session. Sometimes it says terminate. I like it better when it says stop. Okay, so now we're in WAN 2.2 Animate and there's no issues anymore. So no broken nodes and we have all the models. At least I hope. If we run it and any of these nodes turn red, then that means we don't have the model. We'll double check though. So don't get too intimidated. So there's a lot of stuff on here. It looks very complicated. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to read anything here. But if you were to read one thing, it's this note right here in the middle that tells you how to use it. I'm not going to mess with this point editor. Look complicated. I'll deal with that later. So let's just put the required stuff right now, which is loading all the models and loading all the images. And so the first thing here is the models. And so usually the loaders are here in step 1. So let's make sure we have everything loaded. Okay, that's good. Next is the WAN Animate. I guess we got to choose one here. I'm going to choose the light distilled one. The second one here, I'm going to use the relight. Just make sure they're not the same LoRa. And then the load clip. Okay, that's correct. Then the load clip vision. It's correct. The load VAE is going to be the WAN 2.1 VAE safe tensors. I know it's a 2.2 workflow, but just use the 2.1 because that's what the model gave us. And we'll come back to step 2 once we upload the pictures, which should really be step 3 or 4. So next we got to upload a reference image. So that's probably our character or what we want our model to look like. And then we have step 4 with the original video. So let's do the original video first. And let me see what videos I have. All right, so I downloaded a bunch of videos from Pexels of people dancing, which seems to be popular. So let's start with that and we'll start easy. So my ephemeral memory maxed out and kicked me out and I had to relog. So ephemeral memory is going to be this one right here, the system memory utilization. Now I shut down, but you basically just have to restart the pod, not reset the pod. Reset would be erasing everything. Restart would actually just restart it and erase the memory that's in here. Because the memory doesn't go away even though it's a temporary memory. It doesn't go away until you shut down. So I was at 175 gigabytes, so I downloaded and did a lot of stuff. But if that happens, click on restart, not reset. Okay, so now my ephemeral memory is back to 0, system memory utilization. Okay, so now that I have enough system memory, I can start generating again. So once you load all your models, all you're really doing is uploading here in step 3, the character that you want, and then step 4, the video that you want the character to animate with, or copy the movements, and then you're going here into the positive prompt and just saying how they combine. Then in the positive prompt up here, you're saying how these two are combining. And it's very important that you accurately describe what's going on and how you want it to mesh. Then moving over here to the sampling video output. I know it looks overwhelming, but just look at the stuff that I point out. So right now, this video is going to be at 16 frames per second with a length of 77. So this is basically 16 times 4, which is technically 64 seconds, but 77 is just right under that threshold of 5. So you're going to get a 4 to 5 second video. 16 is pretty choppy though. So I was generating at 21 since I have a 5090 loaded up and I was doing 8 seconds. So if you change it to FPS, frames per second of 21, you would have to do 21 times 8 seconds, so that's 168, and so you type 168 here. Now I did try 20 seconds, it didn't do it, it timed out. It's way too much. Even with a 5090, WAN 2.2 is very VRAM intensive. You can probably do it with an A100, but it's going to take a very long time. A100 might be a little slower because it doesn't have the CUDA cores of a 5090, but it definitely has the VRAM. It has up to 80 gigabytes of VRAM, and there's some models here that have like 1,000, but you don't need to do that. I would recommend making a 4-second video and then using this workflow down here that extends it. But you can click in this little corner here to extend everything, and you can see there's a white line around the box now, and then you can right click and then you can set group nodes to always. Now this is enabled, so it's gonna take this extra step to extend your video. And if you want to bypass it again, make sure you select everything one more time, right click, and then select bypass group nodes. The reason why you'd bypass it because it takes twice as long even though it extends it. And if your video can't handle the VRAM, so if you're extending, I wouldn't do this right here, the 8 seconds, I would do 4 seconds. So 21 times 4 is 84, and so you can just do that. For some reason it changed it to 85. All right, but that's how I would use that. So let's click run and see what the results are. Okay, so here's the first one, and I combined this character on the right with this girl dancing on the left, and I gotta admit the results aren't that great, but I've seen some really good examples from other people. Now here's the one from earlier with the cute robot and she's dancing now. Now I'm not a pro at this, and so I'm sure others can do much better, which I've seen. And here's when you don't define the prompt accurately, that's what you get. So it really depends on what you put in the prompt, and the videos come out at 640p, which is not great, but this is a very resource intensive tool, so just make sure that you don't put too many seconds and you play with it to get the optimized result. So let's try Qwen real quick, which is the best image editor and image generator right now that I can think of. So click on templates, then click on image, and then we're going to do Qwen image edit, which is pretty amazing. Now, hopefully we have enough memory for all this. I only have like 40 gigs. So let me install this. If you forgot, I do copy URL, and then I go into Jupyter Lab, and then I go to RunPod Slim, I go to ComfyUI, models, and since this is a VAE, I go directly into the VAE, and then I click on terminal, and now it's in the VAE directory. You can see it right here, ComfyUI models VAE, so I can type wget and then paste that link that I copied. And as long as there's no download at the end, I'm good. I'm gonna press enter. Now I gotta do the same with the rest. Yep, so we're good to go, and Qwen is ready to use. And let's go see how fast a 4090 works. for Qwen image edit. I know my 4070 took about 60 seconds, so a full minute to 40 seconds at the fastest. So here's an image that I made with Qwen. Let's try to do something with this and put something in the positive prompt. All right, so I put in a prompt and I'm gonna run it. All right, so the results are in and the numbers are pretty high. It's still like 70 seconds. And the reason being is that this is Qwen edit, not just the regular Qwen. And the regular Qwen models take about 30 seconds. So that's still pretty good. Then you can see here with the LoRa enabled, it took 9 seconds and sometimes 7 seconds, which was very quick. And the results were really good. So here's the first model, and it was made from this picture here. And it's pretty much exactly the same, but the lighting is changing the color of everything and watering it down. But you can even see the sideburns are so similar. The ears are the same, the armor shape and designs are exactly the same. But it's reacting to the outside light, and so it's a much lighter color. So it's pretty crazy that it's smart enough to know that the outside light is going to give it a different tinge. Now for the next one, I used this girl right here, and it pretty much kept the details perfect. It looks exactly like her, but she's an elf here and she's in armor. So it did a very, very good job with this one. Even the eyes are the same color. She still has freckles and they're all in the same place. She even has her dimples. So very good job there. And you could see here, even with the LoRa, it took 9 seconds and it still looked very good. This one's actually pretty funny. It actually had the t-shirt design on her armor. So it says artificially intelligent and it says it on her armor. Next is this Minecraft character that I created in Midjourney, and it's the Minecraft zombie in Call of Duty gear. So here it has the blockhead and it has Call of Duty stuff on. It actually looks really, really good. Midjourney is so amazing. But I asked for this right here and it turned out pretty good. So the ODUs or the uniform is not as detailed, but it still looks pretty good. It kept most of the coherency. Now the next one I made a lot of pictures of, and so it's this girl right here, and this is the original picture, and I just asked for her in armor and it's perfect. I mean, you look at the armor, the shoulder pads are exactly the same. Even the corset and whatever she's wearing inside has the same jewelry. The necklace is exactly the same. The earrings are the same. Even her eyes, it's very, very good. Even her nose is just exactly the same. Qwen does very good at image editing. So I made a bunch of images of her. One where she's a mage. So that one looked a little bit more cartoony, like these over here. And there's here before you buy that 5090. I was making the thumbnail for my video. Crush your enemies. This one's pretty good too. And we start getting better here. This one looks very good. And crush your enemies, crush any model. So I was just trying to get an idea of what the thumbnail should look like, and it looks pretty good here. And then I added fire to the background. Then I added fire to the video card as well as the sign. Yeah, I generated a lot of them, but with the lightning model it took 15 to 12 seconds, somewhere in that range. Sometimes I got 8 seconds. And this one, you have a video card in one hand and RTX 5090 in a purple box that represents RunPod. Overall, pretty good generation, so I like what Qwen could do. And just a reminder to terminate your session when you're done. Terminate it, terminate the pod. And when you go back into pods, you should see all the available GPUs instead of a running pod. Very important. All right, so that's how you can use a 3090, 5090, or even an A100 server, a $10,000 data center GPU. You can use that today. You don't even have to go to the store. You just pay $1 per hour, and that's pretty much all you're doing. You get it set up like I showed you, and you're good to go. Now, I do recommend that you get the storage at least 60 to 70 gigs per month. It's not fun to have to download it every single time, which is what I was doing before because I was paying for an A5000 and I wasn't buying storage. So I was only really paying like 20 cents an hour or less. Actually 16 cents an hour because I was using the community A4000s and 5000s. So if you want to do this real cheap, you could do this real cheap. An A5000 has 20 gigs of VRAM and it has as much CUDA cores as around a 3070 or something like that. And you could even do a 4090 for under 50 cents and a 5090 for around 84 cents. So that's pretty insane that you can do this. I mean, I would go RunPod for sure. It's scalable. You could run multiple servers at the same time, and it's so much cheaper. Anyways, this video is getting way too long, but thanks for watching all the way to the end here. Hopefully you got the information you need, and have fun playing with 4090s for 50 cents or less. Pretty crazy, right? Now, if you want to watch some other videos, I have a Comfy 101 tutorial that is not just an installation tutorial. It's a deep dive into ComfyUI, and it's pretty much a masterclass. Has a lot of information, even information on some creators that you can follow other than myself, some really good YouTube content creators that I follow with AI art. It goes over model quantization and a bunch of other different things that you might be wondering, and you could skip around. There's chapters. So even though it's 2 hours long, you can just watch it piece by piece and just kind of watch what you want to watch. Again, thanks for watching, and definitely check out my affiliate link in the description and leave a like. It helps me out a lot. All right, bye-bye.